One of the reasons why Wi-Fi is so important to Matter is that it continues to evolve. And as those use cases go, we want to make sure that Matter is usable across effectively any IP-based network.
This is Martha DeGrasse here again for Wi-Fi Alliance, and this is our podcast, The Signal. This week, The Signal is in Las Vegas at CES to introduce our new series, CEO Insights. Wi-Fi Alliance President and CEO Kevin Robinson is sitting down with the industry's top leaders and visionaries to bring you Wi-Fi insights you won't hear anywhere else. Kevin, it's great to be here with you.
It's great to be here, Martha.
And today we are also welcoming Tobin Richardson, President and CEO of CSA, that's the Connectivity Standards Alliance. Tobin, welcome to the show.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great, thanks. And it's a pleasure to be here with you, Tobin. I know we've been interacting for quite some time in our careers in our respective organizations. And I've also really been following Matter and the work of CSA very closely. It's an incredibly exciting, I think, opportunity for the IoT ecosystem. So maybe we could start off just with a bit of an update on where is Matter right now? What's the momentum look like?
Yeah, thanks a lot. And it's been great to know you and to work with you, Kevin, especially even more closely with Matter. The momentum for Matter's going really well. As we look at kind of this journey that we know we're on and really bringing Matter into the market, it is really about, one, making sure that we've got a good spec, that the standard works, and that we have companies building products, and most importantly, that consumers are getting great experiences out of it. And so we're kind of seeing all of these come together at the same time. We've been in the market for about a year. I will tell you, borrowed some great ideas and concepts from the Wi-Fi Alliance and how you work with this notion of a release train. And so we had 1.0 out in November, just over 15 months ago. And then we released 1.1 almost immediately in the spring, and then 1.2. That gave us a good cadence to say, look, let's see what this looks like in the wild. Let's see how things are working, bring that back into the spec and standard, push that out into new certifications. And that seems to be going really well. We've had some bug fixes, updates, or changes that were necessary. And then we also brought in new device types. So this kind of continuation of really focusing on making Matter more simple for end consumers, bringing in new device types, that's really what we're seeing. So we just released 1.2, and we'll be seeing some of those devices, I think, hit the market in Q2, Q3 of this year. So it's a great product turn. We have a year in the market now. We know that these technologies take years to implement. This is at lightning speed in terms of standards, and you know that really well. We've been really pleased with the level of investment needed and continuing from all sorts of companies. We see that first in the number of certifications, so companies taking a product through certification, actually providing that in the market. Lots of great companies, cool products, lighting, of course, thermostats, and several others that are available today. And then, of course, supported by a lot of the large ecosystems. So things are going really well. We've got, no doubt, a lot of learnings. We're working through those. But in terms of the momentum, I'm really pleased with what's happening. And just on the number side, we hit the number 700 in terms of members in the Alliance just this past December. So really kind of tells a story that I think the industry gets that we all need to work together. We need to get together and work hard on this.
That's great. And I mean, to see the level of growth in terms of the membership, but also that commitment that you've been able to turn out multiple releases in such a short period of time, I think just speaks to the vibrancy of what CSA is delivering. So maybe a little bit more, and you mentioned version 1.2, which I guess is the most recent version of the Matter specification. What does that bring? Are those more of like the device types? What really came with that latest release?
Yeah, device support for certain different kinds of devices is really the big part of 1.2. So appliances, washing machines and dryers, as well as refrigerators, air quality control sensors, robot vacuums. So some of the things that folks know well are turning around on a 2-year basis, some that are in your homes for 10 years. And we're really starting to kind of branch out to all of the different kinds of devices that are in the smart home. 1.2 delivered a lot more on the device categories, as well as some updates in terms of how the spec actually works.
Okay, great. And as I guess it's been a morning at CES, but just walking around, seeing the Matter logo on the showroom floor, what are your expectations for CES and going into 2024?
Yeah, I'm looking to see two things. And I think it is, one, I want to see the logo, companies really adopting and making announcements, and they're doing that. And then I want to see companies just bringing cool products into the market. And fortunately, we're really seeing that too, right? Because we're an interoperability standard. we want to be, we don't want to be the hero. We want to be in the background, making sure that these companies can bring really cool products that work together, but they're the ones that are bringing the real value to consumers, and we just want to be in the background. I was at the Samsung press conference yesterday. Tons of announcements, some really cool, fun things that they announced. Matter was not out in front. It was the products. That's where it should be, and that was great. They're a huge supporter. They continue to be a huge supporter of Matter, of course, Wi-Fi and Thread and other standards, but really they're focusing on what they should focus on. Delighting customers with really cool products, using Matter. Matter's in a lot of what they're bringing into the market and announcing this year. So it's kind of an interesting, like you want to be there, but you also want to be in the background. And so it's proven that out pretty well.
Mm-hmm. So of course, security is always a hot topic, and I know it's something that you've been personally kind of involved in and driving a lot of initiatives in the broader industry. But when you look at security, or really any of the other considerations, what really kind of went into Wi-Fi and Thread being viewed as the primary transports, I guess, if you will, if you want to call it that, for Matter? What ultimately got you down to that decision?
Yeah, that's a great point. And security was and is a big part of that. Wi-Fi's history with security is just rock solid, right? I mean, it's well known, and that's part of it. What is well tested? As you look at Matter as an interoperability standard that needs to be adopted in virtually every product that's going to be connected in smart home, you want to make sure that it's on a known technology base, that it's on a one that's global, it's not a niche player, and Wi-Fi fits the bill. Two parts to that. One, Wi-Fi is Internet Protocol. And as we look at the myriad devices that are being connected, want to make sure that they can work in those kinds of diverse networks. IP does that really well. One of the benefits of IP and Wi-Fi, of course, is the security. And if we're going to have devices in every home, you want to make sure that it has great security architecture, that it's been well tested, that it's continued to be supported by the world's leaders in technology, but also the world's leaders in security. And you guys have some of the best security experts, both in terms of the engineers, but the companies and the service providers that sit in the background there that know how to make this work in a really secure way. So that was a really big factor in choosing, what is that core transport for Matter. So Wi-Fi and of course Thread, using IP, that's a really important building block. But it also allows us to really focus on security at the application level and let Wi-Fi continue to do what it does really well and make sure that we're all, of course, still aligned.
Mm-hmm. So I mentioned earlier how just personally I've been very interested in the evolution and just the whole initiative behind Matter. And one of the biggest reasons is I think as an industry we've been through a number of, we don't want to say false starts, in really driving and accelerating adoption of IoT, right? And I think there's a lot of interest in really looking like Matter may be that technology that finally really brings it all together. So maybe could you tell us a little bit about why that's likely to be the case? Why Matter is going to help speed adoption, maybe in the consumer space, which is the one most people think about. But I think I'd also be interested to hear, are there any plans to go beyond that?
Yeah, I think we really need to make sure that we do consumer well. Mm-hmm. And so that's a hyper focus for a lot of the active participants in the working group today. But the notion of what Matter delivers, which is this language of devices, a thermostat describing temperature offset in a home does not need to really be different in a commercial building or even in an industrial setting or in a factory. So why wouldn't you use that? What are the benefits of doing it the same? I don't have enough fingers on my hands to go through them. But efficiency and the ability to replicate one development in one place, keep the costs low, keep the architecture simple, and that's just talking about delivering value today. If you look further down the road in terms of AI and the ability to have really intelligent services provided, you want to have that as a base versus these disparate networks that are described differently. The interactions are described differently. You don't want that. So I think we're already seeing a lot of pressure from companies and industry sectors that want us to pick up different development areas for Matter. I know that will happen. And in fact, some of those are already starting around energy management, also in the commercial space in terms of commercial buildings. That's just the organic part from the companies that want to deliver value. Then you look at the regulatory side of things. So regulators in Europe and the US and Asia want to have a better use of buildings. They want retrofits to adopt open standards. What does that look like? Looks like Wi-Fi and Thread and Matter in those different areas. So I think energy management is an area that is really embedded in our DNA as a community. I even came from, that's how I got into this in the first place, was through the smart energy side. So I'm obviously personally really happy to see that because I believe passionately in that. So I think we'll see energy management kind of come up quickly You've seen some announcements just this week at CES around partnerships to really help consumers manage their costs, whether that's connecting electric vehicles to the home and to meters and managing outage events or demand response events and things like that. There's a lot there in terms of the opportunity and getting folks to work together.
So Tobin, tell us about what you're seeing from a regional adoption perspective.
Yeah, it's a really good point. This is a global standard, so it's really important that this is a standard that can be used in every region around the world, but also adopted. I know I've talked about this notion that we've got a great and growing membership, and we do, but what's really important is the decisions of those different member companies. If their ecosystems really agreeing to break down those walled gardens and really embrace Matter's an open standard. And it really comes down to an understanding that the market's actually going to get bigger if you do that. You're going to have an opportunity for a larger user base. It changes the dynamics a little bit, but the promises there as well as the delivery. We've already seen that from some of the world's largest. They've agreed, they're all in. So we just really look forward to seeing that all-in approach from a lot of other companies and ecosystems around the world.
So, as you may know, Wi-Fi Alliance just recently announced the launch of Wi-Fi Certified 7, which is the latest generation of Wi-Fi. How does Matter and CSA approach kind of the ongoing evolution of technologies as it relates to what Matter is working on?
Yeah, I was really happy to see that. And so congratulations again, as this is one of the reasons why Wi-Fi is so important to Matter, is that it continues to evolve. And as those use cases go, we want to make sure that Matter is usable across effectively any IP-based network. And so whether that's a newer technology or what have you, being able to build in new use cases without having to go deep into the stack and really meddle there, Wi-Fi's got that handled really well. Keep going, keep innovating, and then on the application side, we can keep unifying around this interoperability layer, and it really layers into taking advantage of the innovations and the new use cases that are enabled through Wi-Fi 7. So I'm personally very excited about it. I can't wait to see what the members within the community take advantage of in the way of use cases.
I think you probably touched on a number of areas where I'm going with this next question, but what's next for Matter? What should we be looking out for in terms of either the organization, CSA, or the technology itself?
Yeah, the technology itself, I think, we're really focused this year on simplicity. And what do I mean by simplicity? It is, one, of course, continuing the new device types and things like that. But for the user experience, as different companies have brought products into the market, to make sure that they all sync up with all the different controllers and that process, that first touch, is simple, so that consumers aren't thrown away from it and saying, wait a second, you brought a new standard, now it's more complex. We can't have that. We need to make sure that this is less complex, easier. And so that will be a real big focus this year in terms of the kind of the engineering effort. You may not necessarily see that talked about externally, but for our audience here, that's probably important to understand. And then we'll see new device types. There are a whole host of companies in different market segments. I think you have core functionality in some of these device types. That was great, get that out in version first iteration. But as you get the nuances, as you know, in the devices, well, I want to be able to do X and Y. I'm willing to put that into the standard because it's a commoditized feature. I don't need to differentiate on it anymore. Let's throw that in. And so I think you'll see both the types of devices that get included in Matter this year expand, as well as the functionality of those devices too. So kind of this organic growth. So that's one part. And then I think you'll see energy management pick up as a new interesting area this year too. And then we'll start to, I'm not going to say we're going to set our sights on it because our sights are already there on the commercial side. In terms of commercial buildings, we just added ABB and Siemens to the board of directors. They are really keen to see Matter used in both in commercial and industrial applications. So that's where it starts, is the companies and bringing in the member companies and the volunteers to help make it happen.
It's great. It's been a pleasure to talk with you and just learn a little bit more about where the Connectivity Standards Alliance is going. I think CSA and Matter really have an opportunity to succeed in one of the most challenging areas, frankly, which is this harmonization of getting into the application space, which many companies have really been very protective of that experience.
Yeah.
But I think the end result of what you're doing is ultimately going to result in companies being more successful and growing the overall market than we otherwise would have been. So it's been a pleasure, Tobin. Appreciate your insight. And I'll hand it back over to you, Martha.
Thank you.
Kevin, Tobin, great conversation. And that is our show. You can follow The Signal and CEO Insights on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and of course at the Wi-Fi Alliance. That's y-fi.org. I'm Martha DeGrasse. Thank you so much for joining us, and please join us next time on The Signal.